Reddit, what was the most awkward experience you've had in school? First year of secondary school. Getting changed after a PE lesson and the fire alarm goes off. Teacher comes charging into the changing room telling everyone to get the heck out in whatever state we are in. This would have been fine if I wasn't currently wearing my boxers and my school shirt and jumper. So 11-year-old me is standing in the playground with a third of the school laughing at me in just boxers and a jumper. I thought people had forgotten about it until I looked in the yearbook and about 6 people put that moment as their best school moment. 7th grade. While I was waiting for the bus with my friends, I tried to let out a fart. Unfortunately, it was actually a shart, and I let out a pretty decent amount of liquid crap. All my friends knew almost right away, and started cracking up. I figured that I could run home and change before the bus came. Just as I started hobbling towards my house, the bus arrived. I was an idiot, and decided to get on the bus, figuring that I could just get rid of my underwear once I got to school. The bus ride was heck. After the longest 10 minutes of my life, with everyone laughing their asses off at me, the bus stopped in front of the school. During the few minutes in which it was stopped, a couple kids were freaking around and threw one dude's poster out the window. Some kids started spitting on the poster, and the bus driver flipped out. He stormed off into the school and brought the principal onto the bus. The principal ended up yelling at us for an hour about how we're all a bunch of crazy misfits and how we're all going to get a week of detentions. As he's raging at us, I'm just sitting there grimacing in the discomfort of wearing shart-stained pants. Towards the end, he noticed the smell and remarked, "What smells so bad?" Everyone started cracking up at this point, which made the principal even angrier. He gave everyone another week of detentions, which got some people pee at me. After over an hour of sitting on a bus with my pants soaked in crap, I finally managed to make it to the locker room, with many awkward glances along the way. Thankfully, the showers were all unused. I threw my underwear and pants away, and changed into my dirty gym shorts. The feeling of wearing filthy gym clothes after 2 hours of sitting in crap is a pleasure that nothing can ever really compare to. TLDR. Don't freaking gamble with a fart, ever. So this was junior year of high school and it was prom time. I didn't have anyone to ask, so I asked the school S. Perfect. So everything went fine and then we find ourselves at the after party. I am drunk. We are talking outside and all of a sudden she just grabs my shirt collar and we're going at it. We suddenly find ourselves in the pool house disrobing. I'm in for roughly 2 minutes when suddenly everything goes limp on me. Mother sucker. He ain't coming back. Now while she swore she wasn't going to tell anyone, and that it was totally fine, I knew that was a complete lie. This girl can be a huge C. So yeah, we go back inside. I pass out and I can already hear her telling all of her friends what just happened. So skip to end of the year party. There's probably 200 kids there, and this party was at a large house where everyone partied in one giant room. I was outside smoking a cigarette when someone came outside to tell me to take my time coming back inside. I was like, okay, I will do that. Weird. So I kind of forgot about that warning and walked back inside, and all of a sudden everyone stopped, looked at me, and started yelling limp dong, limp dong, limp dong. I froze. I had no idea what to do, so I just owned it and started jumping up and down while yelling at myself. It wasn't that bad. It was all in good fun, but those first few seconds were haunting. I was one of the first to get boobs. In 2nd grade, little perv felt up my grapes in the lunch line. It's okay, he probably has his own boobs now. It was my sophomore year picture day and I always, without fail, would mix up the auditorium and gymnasium. Because of how many students attended our school, we were called down to the auditorium to get our pictures taken in alphabetic order of our last names. Since no one in my class had a last name near mine, I walked down to get my picture alone and of course, headed to the gymnasium. I don't know why I didn't get the hint that it wasn't in the gym by the total of 0 people waiting outside, but as I walked in, a whole bleacher full of boys swiveled their head to look at me and shouted, "What are you doing here? You don't have a dong." I got so flustered and awkward that I turned to leave and ran face first into the door, giving myself a nosebleed and prompting me to do a shame walk to the nearest bathroom. TLDR. Walked into an all boys gym class, got flustered because I was lost and ran into the door, giving myself a nosebleed. 8th grade. Drama class. I'm a guy. Back in school I was a challenging student who would do anything for a laugh. I guess I must have been funny, because I got the lead female role for a play. It came from old Shakespeare days when males played all roles. We took the show on the road to old folks' homes, other schools, and wound up at physically mentally handicapped school performing for them. We had the understudies take the lead roles. I was left with nothing to do. Backstage there was a larger girl who was trying to wrestle me. Being a 13-year-old male, wrestling was my thing. I thought we were finished. She thought otherwise. I went to take a peek at the audience. She ripped my pants down. I turned around and kicked her super hard in the stomach and yelled, "You be," at the top of my lungs. I didn't mind an entire school of handicapped children seeing me naked. But when my teacher stormed backstage and asked what was going on, I felt bad trying to explain nudity. And the girl laying on the ground making dog barfing noises trying to recover from a kick to the stomach. I didn't get along with most school staff. And here I was letting down one of the few who understood me. In my high school we had different tracks of math, and in the advanced group there was only enough students for one class each year. So I basically did 5 years of math with the same 22-ish kids from 8th grade. We started Algebra 1 in middle school to 12th. So in my junior year the girls who were all friends and clique Y were talking about boys that they thought were cute. Apparently no one remembered or cared about the fact that I was in the classroom because someone mentioned me. One girl said she thought I was really hot and then all the other girls laughed at her. I spent the rest of junior and all of senior year thinking I was just about ugly as frick. It turns out they were just laughing for some other reason, because I was told by one of them about a month before I got out of high school that they all thought I was cute. No one freaking told me that. I'm still confused about what happened in my high school years. Was feeling a bit nauseous at school. I should have avoided eating anything, but grilled cheese and tomato soup was too enticing to pass up. 5 minutes later, I stand up and projectile vomit enough tomato soup to turn our cafeteria into a murder scene. At my graduation ball, security caught me rolling a joint on the toilet and marched me to the table that had my entire proud family seated around it to confess to them what I had just done. I had this foreboding that the whole school would know and dreaded the upcoming Monday, but there was nothing that would have prepared me for the amount of whispering and pointing that set in as soon as I stepped through the school doors. I tried finding my friends to assess the level of damage that had been done, but before I could manage to do so, I was whisked off to the principal's office, who kept asking me to admit it in a dramatic voice but refused to tell me what it even was. At least, this got me out of class for 2 hours, after which he had to let me go as I kept refusing to admit to anything. Schools are not allowed to do drug screenings on their students in my country, in case you're wondering. When I came out of his office, there was a whole bunch of people loitering around there, all trying very hard to avoid my gaze as I walked past. In the beginner yard, the music teacher I had last been taught by 4 years ago grasped my hands, asked me to please get help and quit this life, then handed me some brochure. The whole thing just kept getting more and more awkward. I was feeling horrible by now, and still had no clue what was going on. When I finally managed to find my friends, they weren't in the same grade, so it took some searching. They told me that apparently I was a drug dealer and had been caught trying to sell a kilo of weed at the ball, as well as trying to put LSD in the water supply of the venue, stupid to the max. But people seemed to believe it. The whole thing thankfully got eclipsed by the stress of preparing for and actually passing the graduation and end of year tests, but for a while, I got asked for drugs so often it really wasn't funny anymore. Some deadbeat potheads suddenly thought I was one of them and wanted me to go smoke with them all the time and hook them up. Something I definitely didn't want, as I had seen a few of my friends become pot zombies by that point. Many people didn't even want to be seen talking to me. It's a funny episode in retrospect, but when it happened, it was kinda scary to see how easily people believe any kind of crap and just go with it without even thinking twice, and how opinions are shaped. When I was a freshman in high school, I was heading to my locker on a very large high school campus and I gambled with a fart. I lost. I lost in the most extreme way possible, as a liquid torrent of chunky fesses rolled into my pants and down my left leg. I stood, stunned, in a hallway filled with students as I realized my life was over. I walked, knees locked rigid so as to minimize locomotion in my pants, to the bank of payphones and waited with horror as I waited for one to become available. Finally, after an agonizing minute, I scooted up, slid in a quarter, called my mom and said simply, I need a clean pair of pants, underwear, socks, and a jumbo plastic bag as soon as you can possibly make it happen, and hung up as soon as she assented. I then continued my penguin shuffle towards the nurse's office, but as I passed a girl I had a massive crush on, she called out to me, waved, and asked how I was. My face went crimson. I said I had to run, and moved along to the nurse's office. I got to the office, burst past the nurse saying simply, I need your bathroom for a bit. My mom will be here soon. Shut the door, and I stared somewhat shell-shocked at the door. After 20 minutes, there was a knock at the door. I opened the door slightly. My mom slid in a plastic bag filled with clothes, a jumbo freezer Ziploc bag, and a container of moist wipes. I thanked her profusely, and got to work. I put my soiled pants and underwear, and socks, in the bag, put on the new underwear, shorts, and socks she'd brought me, and was triumphant that the great pants crapping incident of 2007 had gone unnoticed. I handed the bag back to my mom and confidently strode out of the nurse's office. My grin faltered as I stepped outside, and saw the girl from before sitting outside. She looked up and said, are you okay? I was really worried when you ran away like that. Hey, weren't you wearing pants before? In middle school, going through puberty and all, I had my period during class. Of course I just sat there until break. When break finally came around, I went to the washroom to clean myself off and then come with some supplies to clean my seat because I wouldn't be in that classroom for the next period, and I didn't want someone else to clean my mess. Little did I know, a bunch of guys were around that seat, not from my class, all grossed out and all. Here I just come walking in, cleaned the seat as quickly as I could and then left. The silence of them watching me clean the seat and the uproar of laughter that happened when I left. I just wanted the seat to be nice and clean to whoever was sitting there next. In junior year, my friend and I would have dance-offs during lunch. We were both as white could be, so it just amounted to a comical display of discombobulated flailing in front of a packed cafeteria. Eventually, the lunch ladies would turn on music for us. Once, we even got free lunch. Good times. Anyway, one day we had a dance-off. Everyone was cheering or throwing things at us. Music was playing. About a minute in, I noticed someone standing immediately behind me. Oh, good. An outside participant, I thought. I decided to twerk myself over to them. I made contact, and the person backed off. I chased them down with my gyrating butt. That's when I noticed the entire cafeteria had gone silent. No music was playing. No one was clapping. I was the only sign of life in a field of kids frozen in time, mouths agape, all eyes stuck on me. I turned around and there I saw him. Directly behind me, the person whom I had been grinding, was my vice principal. He stood, arms planted on hips, brows furrowed in an odd mix of vexation and curiosity, staring at me. Son, what are you doing? He asked. Dancing. Well, we gonna have to have a little talk in my office, then, he said, eyes flaring to punctuate talk. I'm sorry, I won't let it happen again. I was as sheepish as I could be. How does one explain that they got a detention for giving the vice principal a lap dance? I'll be calling you later. Sit down and finish your lunch. He turned on his heel and left. The roars of laughter would have been appreciated had I not been having a panic attack at the moment. My father was absolutely against all forms of class clownery. I spent the entire day dreading the promised summons, but he never called. I got away with it, and from then on, I was the kid who gave the vice principal a lap dance. TLDR. I accidentally gave the vice principal a lap dance. Before I begin, I just want to state that I have shared this on Reddit before and it was the most awkward situation I was ever a part of during high school. I was heading to my locker during my spare block after lunch to grab a Pop-Tart out of my locker when I see this girl from another high school in the hallway. She used to go to our school but she got expelled for showing up to class drunk. Anyways, I see her in the hallway and I walk up to her to say hey. Before I can even utter a word, she runs right at me and jumps on me, giving me a massive bear hug. As she's hugging me, I can smell the whiskey on her breath. She lets go of me and I ask her what she's doing here and she said she was here to see a substitute teacher. Let's call him Mr. Williams. She had heard he was going to be teaching here today and she needed to speak with him. I'm bored during my spare, so I decide I'll help her find Mr. Williams. I didn't ask why she needed to see him. I wish I had though, or else I wouldn't have helped her find him. Anyway, we go classroom to classroom looking for him and we must have searched 7 or 8 before we found him. When she walked into that classroom, he looked like he had seen a ghost. I have never seen a man look as scared as he did in my entire life. She gets right into the middle of the classroom and in her inebriated state she blurts out that she's pregnant and that Mr. Williams is the father. She goes off on this huge rant yelling at the guy out about how he hasn't returned her phone calls or texts since the last time they had sex at his place. She asks him why he hasn't returned his phone calls. He is just standing there in a state of shock, unable to put a coherent sentence together. Then she begins to cry and asks him if it's because she isn't attractive enough for him, and before he can even reply she lifts up her shirt and takes it off and throws it at him. Then she takes off her bra and throws it at him and yells, "How can you not want this body? I'm the sexiest woman you'll ever frick." Once she yelled back, I just got the heck out of there. I didn't want to be around when the principal or any other teachers showed up. Man, you are stupid. You had front seat at the show and you ran away. Me and some others found it funny, but I took ROTC in high school and after 2 years I basically just sat in a small office during class until PT on Friday. The officer cadets always use the office to change since it was easier and faster. After PT one day I went in early since I had to do something else. Started changing. A girl who technically wasn't allowed to change in there, but we let her anyway since we were friends, accidentally walked in on me half naked. She made it halfway in before we both simultaneously noticed each other and she bolted out apologizing. I made a joke about it and she just seemed embarrassed and apologized all day. Kindergarten. Got angry that someone took my toy, so I went on a rampage and hit the crap out of a ton of kids with a chair. I got expelled. Last Friday, leaving lunch, I saw a table set up with candy. I wanted the candy, so I spoke to the people managing it for a minute. I think it was about head trauma awareness. They gave me a ticket to a film I presume was about head trauma, but could tell I wasn't interested and asked me to give it to someone else. On my way back to class, I saw another ticket on the floor, so I picked it up to throw it in a trash can by the water fountain. One of my teachers was also at the water fountain filling a water bottle. I figured I would make the booth people proud, so I offered them to her. "Do you want to see this? I got some tickets." Ooh, I really wanted to go to that, but I have to go home. I stared at the tickets for a second trying to figure out why anyone would have planned to see this, but had to get back to class in a few seconds. So I just said, "Okay," and lightly jogged away. She called out, "That's so sweet," as I left, and that's about when I realized what I'd just done. But the bell rang, and I missed my chance to explain myself. I have to see this person tomorrow. TLDR. Accidentally asked my teacher out with a pair of tickets on a Friday night and then ran away. When I was in grade 10, a kid I kinda knew at the time offered to sell me coke at school. I'm not a big drug user and I don't know what I was thinking, maybe like cola or something for some reason. I follow him to the bathroom and he pulls out a big bag of powder. Here comes the awkward part. A lanky guy comes out of stall, sees me and this kid with powder. Unbreaking eye contact. No words at all, he just nopes the frick out of there. Didn't even wash his hands, absolutely disgusting. The first day of my sophomore year I was walking to all of my classes. getting to know my schedule and the locales in which I'd be suffering for the next 180 days. As we all know, the first day of any school year is the hardest. Everyone's so used to not being around each other that we just kinda sit in silence and wait for some sort of awesome bonding experience to ooze out of nothingness. That's probably just me. Anyway, the day was awkward in general, but the worst part was when I had to go to my algebra class. I was late on the first freaking day. So I walk in and everyone goes silent. Everyone was looking at me, so out of impulse I yell at my teacher, sorry, first day schedules, even though she's right in front of me. She shudders at the volume of my voice and doesn't respond, and I'm kinda shifting weight on both feet, trying to hold in the bricks that were forcing themselves out of my anus. Anyway, like I said, she looks at me like I'm a freaking idiot and she doesn't respond, so I just play it off real cool and start looking around. This goes on for about 30 seconds, the class and the teacher watching me stand and do nothing, and I finally realize that I'm in a freaking classroom. So with that awe-inspiring eureka moment, I decide to find a desk. I couldn't see anything over the rows of puberty and angst, so I yell at the teacher, so where do I sit, teach? And I get no response until some social warrior took the burden of my existence, strapped it to their chest, and detonated in a crowded corner of the room, their last actions becoming them pointing to an empty desk and saying that desk is empty. The first step, I take the bricks shot out of my rectum at Mach 7. Luckily, no one notices and I waddle to my seat, marinating in my social shame. Worst 90 minutes of my life. TLDR. Shat bricks because was late to first day of algebra. Couldn't find a seat until some radical terrorist detonated an explosive. Also yelled at my teacher even though she was right in front of me and referred to her as teach. Being voted the ugliest kid in school by the popular girls in my class. Embarrassing for me. The awkward part was the vicious no-holds-barred tirade I unleashed on them, which reduced one girl to tears and a whole bunch of other students not sure what to do. The whole remainder of the class was fricked up. I guess they just expected me to sit there and take it, frick them. Probably crapping myself in gym class. On the one hand, not many people have taken running shoots before, so I guess that makes me special. I walked into class, and my benchmate handed me a card, completely handmade. Opened it to find this: "You are Pikachu. I choose you. I'm your TGP. Pre. He crap his pants later in the day, and told me so, looking straight in the eyes. Never forgetting that day. This happened my sophomore year. I was going to the bathroom after school had ended. Get it all out of my system before drumline practice. My school is cheap, so our men's restrooms lacked the all-important dividers between urinals. As I walked in, I saw that the bathroom was full and there was only one urinal available, right next to another guy from drumline. As I unzipped, I chuckled. I don't know why. I never will. Then he chuckled. We made eye contact while peeing. Yes, and burst out laughing for about 30 seconds. Then we zipped up, washed our hands, and never spoke of it again. My senior year of high school, I was assigned a group project of books we had individually read previously in the year. Naturally, my 4 best friends and I got together to work. We incorporated all the main characters of the books into a satire film with a plot that ended up ridiculous and complete ball wash. Probably because we shot and edited the thing at 12 the previous night. Anyway, I don't remember all the characters, but I do remember 2 of them were from Cormac McCarthy books and one was Precious from that Sapphire book or whatever. Seeing as how it was a satire, we decided to use blackface for Precious's character. Not just blackface, I mean blackface. The full-out tar baby red lips, white around the eyes blackface. Also, a large nasty nappy wig. In a scene of our skit, she had just gotten out of the shower and was wearing a towel. Man, it was great. We got a pillow and a belt and situated it perfectly proportional under the towel to imitate her belly fat and boobs. So the character, who was played by yours truly, sits down and starts eating watermelon. Just in case we hadn't been racist enough yet, the following scene was her being fricked by the main creepy McCarthy character from No Country for Old Men to the tune of Cotton Eye Joe. We watched our video during class. As soon as Precious I walk out of the shower, our massively obese, Black vice principal looks through the small window in the door. He watches through the watermelon and sex scene. He slowly opens the door, pokes his head in for 10 seconds, and then slowly closes the door again, staying silent the whole time. My friends and I melted in our seats. We thought we were done for. He never spoke of it to us, but man were we terrified. All of our classmates were almost as embarrassed and didn't even so much as chuckle through the whole video. And our teacher, a new age, feminist earthy lady, almost broke down and cried in class for allowing us to show it. It was a terrible idea, and we were C4 being that racist, and we deserved all the awkwardness and more for our shiftiness. TLDR. My black principal walked in on a terribly racist video a project group and I made and was showing in class. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.